Welcome back, aliens. This is Navin Reddy from Telusko Learnings, and in this video we'll talk about JDBC. So JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity. Now think about this world, think about this information world where what matters is not the websites, not the software, what matters is data, right? So if we talk about this concept like information technology, so everything moves or everything works around the information, right? Example, think about WhatsApp, why we use WhatsApp to share information, right? Why we use this banking software to check our bank balance and all those things, right? So the whole funda of having this software world is because of data. So the center of attraction for everything is data, right? So when you build a software, why you build software? Because you want to process data. And where you will store this data, so we require a database. So you'll be having a database in your system where you will store all your information. Now this database can be flat file system, this can be RDBMS, this can be NoSQL, this can be big data, doesn't matter, it's a database, right? So let's say you are using RDBMS, which is relational DBMS. You can talk about MySQL, we can talk about Oracle, SQL servers, those are your RDBMS, right? If you talk about MongoDB, so that's NoSQL. If you talk about Hadoop, big data, so that's a different topic. If you talk about files, there are different type of databases, right? So we'll be working with RDBMS here. So if you have a database here, so that's a database, and you have a Java code, because to fetch data from the database, we have to file SQL queries, right? So to work with database, we have to file SQL queries. Now, if you're working for a company, you're not an IT expert. Let's say you're working for a bank. Now you want to fetch details of a customer. You will not file a query, right? You will click on a button. So that means you need to create a GUI where you will click on the button and the data will be fetched from database. That means you have to connect your front-end application. So that's your front-end application with the backend database. So this is your database. And to connect Java with database, we require a connectivity, right? And that concept of connecting Java with database is called as JDBC. So JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity, right? So whenever you want to connect your Java application with database, we require JDBC. Now here, we have 4 different types of drivers, because when you want to connect Java application with database, we need to use one driver. So we have 4 choices. We can use native driver, which is ODBC bridge, basically. So we have ODBC bridge, which is used for MS Access. We can use native API. We can use pure Java drivers, depending upon you what you use. So there are 4 types of drivers. So our main intention is not to talk about drivers, but to connect your Java application with database. So whenever you want to connect your Java application with the database, you have to use 7 steps. So the first step, so we have to follow 7 steps. So from 1 to 7. So the first step of the connectivity is you have to import the package. So that will be your first step. Now, which package, that we'll talk about this later. So we have the package. Second step is you have to load. So that's load and register the driver. So first step is you have to import the package. Second step is you have to load and register the driver. The third step would be connecting or establish the connection. The fourth step, so first step is import the package, second is load and register driver, third is establish the connection. The fourth step is create the statement. The fifth step is process or let's say this is execute the query. And the sixth step will be process results. And the last step is you have to close the connection and the statement. So these are the 7 steps for JDBC. The first step is import the package. The second one is load and register the driver. The third step is establish the connection. Fourth is create the statement. Fifth, process the results, or fifth is execute the query. Sixth is process results, and seventh will be close. Now, to remember these steps, just imagine you want to call someone. You want to call your friend and you will ask him as, let's say you're calling your friend in your college and then you're asking his results are out or not. So you will call him, right? So before calling, what you need? A phone. So of course you call a phone, right? So let's import the package. Next, you need a network. You need a network and you should be able to call. So that is load and register driver. You require a SIM card, right? Now once you have a mobile phone, once you have a SIM card or working SIM card, the next is you have to establish the connection. So you have to call him, you have to dial a number and you have to press on dial button. It will call. Then you have to think what you have to say. So you have to say results are out or not. So that's the statement you have to mention, that is statement. Next you have to speak that statement, that is execute the query. Then after saying, you will get a response, that is you have to get the response that is it out or not. So you will be getting yes or no. So that's process the results, and then once everything is done, that's the close, right? So if you follow the 7 steps, you can easily write any JDBC application. Now question arises, which package you're talking about? So this is import the package, right? So the package we have to use here is java.sql package. So that's the package we need to use here. So with java.sql.star. The second step, so we can break down the second step into 2 parts. So we can see the first part is load the driver and the second part is register it. So we can say this is point A and point B. So we have 2A which is load and 2B which is register. Now how to do that? So which driver? So depend upon which type of DBMS you're working with. So if you're working with MySQL, so we have a different driver. For Oracle, we have a different driver. For Postgres, we have a different driver. But let's say in this example, we are talking about MySQL, right? So for the driver for MySQL is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So that's the driver name we have. So it is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. So you have to load this driver and you have to register. But hold on. When you say you want to load it, but from where? From which location you want to load it? So you have to download a jar file, a library from the internet, and the library name is, it is MySQL. So that's MySQL connector. So if you are using NetBeans, in NetBeans we have this connector inbuilt. So you just have to right click on the libraries and import the library. Again, we'll see that once we start with the practical. Okay, so we require this library. So if you're using NetBeans, it is inbuilt. If you're using Eclipse, you have to go to Google, search for MySQL connector and download the jar file. Okay, it will be approximately 172 KB if I'm not wrong. So if you download that software, then you have to load it in your project, and again we'll see how to load in the practical session, and then you have to register. Now once this 2 step is done, okay, we are remaining with this register. How to register? To register this, we need to use a statement we need to use a method which is called as for name. So for name is a method which is a reflection API method which will load your driver. So you just have to mention here com.mysql. So this driver name jdbc.driver. So you have to write this method which is for name. Okay, that's how you register a method or register a driver. So this method for name belongs to a class. So we have to say class dot for name. So that's the syntax we have. Okay, don't worry, I will write the code for this once again. Yeah, so we have the next step is establish the connection. Now in order to establish the connection, you have to instantiate the interface called as this one. It is connection. So there is an interface called as connection, and you have to instantiate that object or that interface. Next is create the statement. So the statement will be of 2 types. One is normal statement. In fact, it's of 3 types. So one is normal statement. Then we have prepared statement. And the last one is callable statement. So we have three types of statements here. One is statement, prepare statement, and callable statement. So when you want to execute a query, so you can execute the query with the help of statement object. When you have a query which is inbuilt, so you have a predefined query, but you have different values, you can use prepare statement. Again, we'll see that how to use it. And then you want to execute the PL, which is the programming procedural language in SQL. So you can use callable statement. So this is for stored procedures. Okay. Now, once we got the statement, you have to execute the query. Now, whenever you execute a query, you will get a response, right? So let's say you want to fetch the data from the database. So you will get a table structure. So the response can be a table structure. Second, let's say you're not fetching, you're inserting a value. So whenever you insert the value into database, it will return the number of rows affected. So you're getting something. So you can process the results, whatever you get. And then everything is done, you can simply close it. How to close? Get the object of statement, close it, get the connection, get the object of connection, close it. So that's how you do the 7 steps. Now, how to write the 7 steps in a programming way? So this is the steps, right? So before continuing, just pause the video, write down all the steps on your notebook so that we can refer. Okay. So let me remove all the statements now. Okay. So let me write this in a coding format. So let's say we have a main method here. So that's your main. Okay. Again, this is public static void main. In that you have string arguments. So that you can imagine, right? So the first step. Let's start with the first step. The first step is you have to import the package. So the package name is you have to write an import statement, and the package will be java.sql.star. So that's the package we have to use, right? The second step is you have to load the driver. Now to load the driver, you have to right click on your library folder inside your project properties. So on the right side, when you open NetBeans or Eclipse, you will be having a library folder there. You have to add a MySQL connector driver. Okay. Again, we'll see how to download that in the practical session and how to assign the value or how to assign the library. Now, once we got the library, the second part of the second step, which is 2.b or 2b, is you have to register a driver. For that, the driver name is com.mysql.JDBC. It's driver. Right? And then you have to load this with the help of a method which is forName. So forName is a method which will load your driver. And this forName method belongs to a class called as class. This C need to be capital because this is a class. So it is class.forName. In bracket you have to mention the driver name. Now once we got the driver name or loaded the driver, registered it, next step is create the connection. How to get a connection? We have to say connection. We can say connection con, that's the object name or the reference name. The problem is connection is an interface, right? So we cannot say connection con equal to new connection because we cannot instantiate the object, the interface directly, right? So we need to search for a method which will give me the object of connection. So someone has implemented the object of connection, somebody has implemented the interface connection, and now they are providing the object. So the method name is, it is getConnection. So getConnection is a method which will give you the object of connection. Okay, how it doesn't matter, right? Because we are not concerned about how it works, we are concerned only about the connection object. Now this connection object will take 3 parameters. The first one, then we have second one, and then we have third one. Okay, so it takes 3 parameters. So the first parameter is the URL, the second parameter is username, and the third parameter is password. Okay, so the URL for your database, because in your DBMS, let's say if you're using MySQL, you may have multiple DBMS. So which database you want to work with, so you have to mention that here. Second, to access MySQL, we have to specify the username and password. So this is username and password. Again, we'll replace that thing once we got the link. Now, how to call this getConnection method, right? Because it's a method, right? It will belongs to a class. So the class name is driver manager. Okay, so this get connection, this is a static method. That's why we are using a class name which is Java manager. Now once we got the object of connection which is con, the next step is you have to create the object of statement. How to do that? So we can say statement st equal to. Now again, the statement is an interface. So we can use the object which is con dot create statement, right? So once you got the statement object, so this is your 2b step, this is your third step, and this is your fourth step, this is your first step. Okay, now the fifth step is you have to execute the query. So how to execute? We can simply say st dot execute query. So that's the method you have to use, and in bracket you have to specify the query. So let's say I want to fetch the whole table, so I will say select star from student. So let's say I have this table which is student. Now it will fetch all the data, right? So this query will fetch all the data. So what we need to do, we need to save the data somewhere, right? Because if you fire this query, I will be getting a table structure. Okay, so let's say in this table I have two rows. One is roll number and second is name, right? And so I'll be getting that table. In this I'll be having some records. So let's say 1 Naveen, 2 let's say Raj, and 3 Mona. So we have these three names, right? So we have Naveen, Raj, and Mona. So now if I fire this query, this table will be stored inside a object of result set. So we'll say rs. So result set is a interface of which if you are creating the object which is rs, it can hold that table. Now the sixth step, how to process results. So to fetch all these values, there is a method with rs called as get string or get int. So to fetch roll number we can say get int. To fetch the name we can say get string. Okay, but the problem is if I say get int, which int value I'll be getting? This one, second one, or third one? That's the question, right? So initially your pointer will be somewhere here, okay, before the first value. So your pointer is there. So you have to shift your pointer to the first location. And how to shift? We have to say rs dot next. As soon as you say rs dot next, it will shift your pointer from this location to 1. Now if you say rs dot get int, and if you specify the column number, you have to specify which column, the first column or the second column. So you can say the first column. It will give that value 1. Okay, and you can store this value anywhere, or you can just print it. Let's say I want to print both the values. So I can say, I can use a space in between, so that's your first value. Second, we can say rs dot get, because the second column is a string. So we can say get string, and in bracket you can mention 2. So this 2 will give you the second column data, which is Naveen. So we are on the first row. If I say get int, first column, it will give me 1. Get string, second column, it will give me Naveen. If you want to go to next row, it will say again rs dot next. Now this will take you to the next row. Now if I write the same line here, I will be getting 2 and Raj, right? So we have to do this for 3 to 4 times depending upon how much rows you have. Instead of writing this code repeatedly, we can use a loop, right? So we can use a loop, which is while loop, and we can put this rs dot next inside a while loop, and we can print this data with the help of system.out.println. Right? So this is system.out.println. But will it work inside a while loop? Because while loop needs true or false, right? We want to check how many rows we have. Maybe if you are here, how can you go to next line when you don't have that row? So this rs.next will do 2 things. The first thing, it will shift the pointer. Second, it will check if you have that next line, right? So that's how this rs.next works. And once you have processed all your data, the last step will be you have to close the statement object, which is st.close and con.close. Sounds good? So that's how you write your application using JDBC. So if you execute this code, this is your 7th step. If you execute this code, you can connect with database. So we have written this to fetch the value. We can also write the methods, or we can also write a query for inserting. The difference will be when you talk about SQL. So we have in SQL we have something called as DDL, we have DML and DQL. We also have TCL, but that's not important here. So DDL is whenever you create the structure of a database or a table, that's DDL. Whenever you want to insert, delete the values, it is manipulation. And whenever you want to fire the query for fetching the values, it is DQL. So for DQL, we use execute query. Let's say you want to insert the values, that comes on DML, right? So for that, you have to use a method which is called as update. Execute, update. Again, we'll see that once we start with the practical. Okay, so that's it from this. And so before ending the session, so normally after every video now, I will be asking you some questions about the technological world. So for today's question is, who is the founder of Oracle? If you know this answer, just comment in the comment section. Let's see who answers first. So that's it from JDBC. See you on the next video.